The DRZ. They announced the price. It's too expensive. Or is it really? Because I don't think it's so simple. Because I think there's some things you forgot about. Mainly that I'm always right. I said it was going to be this price.
What's this new one going to actually cost out the door? $10,000, $11,000?
Let's go discuss those. But first, let's get on the road here on the Sherco 500. We still have a bunch of parts about to go on this thing. Things are building up in the garage, and that's going to start. That's going to be kicking off. Let's get on the road.
The DRZ, look at it. It came out, it's 8, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9. It's a bunch of nines. And there's a $9,000 DRZ. That's kind of insane, especially when you look at the market. It's only $1,000 less than the CRF450RL. Honestly, not far off of the price of several of the bigger bikes, parallel twin adventure bikes out there, like the DRZ700 or the Trans Out. That's kind of insane. I think we'd all agree that's a hell of a lot more bike for the money. And of course, I think the biggest one is we've seen what this new 390 costs, the 300L, the KLX 300. These are all bikes around the $5,000 mark. I can't argue with you. It's not great. I've seen people suggest people at Suzuki are living under a rock. How could they not know that was the price? They must be so unaware of the market. Well, I would say they're definitely aware of the market. I don't think that they don't know what everything else is being sold for. I think they also very well know that their bike's stacking up against those has some disadvantages. Still a 5-speed, still, while it's got a lot of new stuff, it's still mainly based off the old bike. They might try to fancy it up, try to say it's a ground up bike, but it's not. I think Suzuki would definitely sell this bike cheaper if they could have. I don't think they can. I think it simply comes down to where it's built. Bikes like the KTM 390s are in India, the Honda and Cowie 300s are out of Thailand, and the Suzuki is still Japanese. There was some speculation Suzuki built some new factory in India. There was speculation that's where it was going to be built at. But I don't think that's the reality. Google says that that bike is still being built in Japan. And honestly, you look at the price, it makes sense. Maybe that is Suzuki's big mistake. Maybe they should have built it in that new factory. That does seem to be the way a lot of the stuff in the industry is going now, is that they're switching over to this cheaper manufacturing in other countries. I guess what we're gonna have to ask ourselves is, do we think that that's worth it? I guess to answer that though, you have to ask yourself, well, what is making it cheaper? Why is it cheaper versus Japan versus India, or Japan versus China or Thailand? There's two things that I'm thinking about, right? One is the quality of the work. Is that bike going to be as good as it would have been out of Japan? Or are we getting a lesser quality machine? And I guess it depends. Not a straightforward answer I can give you on that. My 300L was built out of Thailand, and you looked at the quality of that thing, you got close and kind of peered into it. It's not that it was built bad, but you could tell it was a more budget bike. There was just a lot of little things that they did, little corners that were cut. Luckily, they kind of made up for those things just by overbuilding a lot of stuff. Like the way the frame was built was ridiculous. Like, I bet there was like zero flex in that front head stock. I mean, it was like, Jesus, man. It's not an enduro bike. It's not a race machine. It's just a cheap little dual sport, so it probably doesn't matter much. Well, I don't know, you know, like, what are the metallurgies? What are they like? What's production like? What's the skill level like of the workers? How much is it being done by machine? How much oversight is there that they're going to stay on top of what, you know, the production levels that we want to see them at? And of course, the answer to that question, even if you can know it, is it's going to depend, right? It'll depend on which manufacturer you're talking about. Like, I've had some CF Moto bikes in my garage. Actually, they gave me one. The Papio is a cheap bike to begin with too, comparing with other cheap bikes out of Thailand. I've owned a Grom and I've owned a Papio. I don't see the difference. There's actually things arguably I like about the Papio more than the Grom, but we don't know about that from all brands. I don't know about the Indian bikes from KTM. And while the DRZ is not some crazy high-built bike anyway, I haven't seen the newest one, but I can't imagine welds and build quality are any different. It's reliable and consistent across the brand. And consistency, I think, is also a big thing that you would expect out of Japanese manufacturing, where some of these other cheaper countries, we don't know. You know, again, could be great, but it's just hard to say. But I know there's a lot of you out there that you're very hard up on it. You were like, no, I don't want an Indian-built, Chinese-built Thai, but you want a Japanese because you've just learned to trust it. And maybe you've been burned over the years from some of these other brands. A little scared with the Cybertruck behind you doing that. That guy's on self-drive, whatever. They don't see bikes very well. Now, I think the other question, there was two in there. The other thing that's happening, the thing you got to ask yourself about production from over there is a dicier one of, do you want to support buying stuff out of these other countries? Now, I think this is always kind of a silly conversation in the one sense that people will, especially when it comes to like Chinese stuff, like I'll drive those CF Motos around and people will say, oh, I would never own a Chinese motorcycle. It's like, dude, you might have more on your person right now in Chinese manufactured parts than you realize. I mean, I, between the two cameras right here, my iPhone, this Bluetooth, I mean, this is over two grand, at least retail value of Chinese equipment. And so I'm not saying I'm against it, but I'm also saying, I mean, there is a point there too, don't get me wrong. Kind of getting back to the bigger thought though, is why does that make it cheaper? Well, we know we're getting is cheap labor out of it, but what's the other side to that? What does that mean? Yeah, that'll get that scat pack going there. What did I say? Some cases are possibly and most certainly taking advantage of the worker. Some of this is also due to economical just differences in general, so you don't want to get like overly caught up in that either. Yeah, there's a minimum wage that we would pay an employee here in the U.S. and then what's producing those $5,000 KTMs. I'm not saying we're going to suddenly change what we're doing and we're going to start saying, I want everything to either be made in America or made where the employees are treated the same as America, which would then of course mean that they're going to get the same payment. It might as well just be made in America. So the whole point of all that is basically to say, yeah, the the DRZ ain't cheap because it's made in Japan. So man, it's a cool car there. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I'll follow him a little more. I think this guy in front was trying to police us here. He didn't want me playing around. This is too much traffic for me. I'm gonna head out of here. You have a good one. You know, like the CRF450RL, like I said, is only 1,000 more. And consider that, yeah, they're both Japanese-built 400, 450 dual sport bikes. The Honda has a little bit more peppy of a motor and an aluminum frame. Like, it's 1,000 more. Like, now it kind of all make, you know, like it's not even that big a deal. But I'm pretty sure actually on paper, stock, they're both claiming the same horsepower stock. We still have yet to see what that thing's going to be like. You know, if we put some mods on it, if you take that DRZ, are you going to be able to actually make it badass? You might be able to, who knows? You know, it's got a different head on now. It's still yet to be foreseen. And let's be honest, some of the other bikes I've compared to, some of those cheaper ones, well, the KLX 300, CRF 300, they need a lot done to them to get them where they're good. I owned a 300L. It did a lot to it. I'm pretty sure my old DRZ, when it had just a flat slide carb on it, was probably just as quick. I also ended up putting cams on it. I mean, it definitely would have pulled my old 300L. And my 300L, by the way, if you don't follow that, was bored out, had a ported head. Like, it was done up. But even that, it's like 35 horse at the wheel is what we ended up at. And a pretty revvy motor. And let's be honest, a DRZ, even if it's a bit heavier, it only has a 5-speed. It's not going to take much to match that. They kind of almost make that anyway out the box, but I do know it would pull on a DRZ. I've raced one, and it's not crazy either. It just kind of walks away from it. And the 300 KLX 300 is very similar, comparing the 390 Adventure and dual sport supermotos to the thing, whatever, which one you want to pick. I get it's a 6-speed, and that motor is definitely going to be putting out more power out the gate. There are some things I don't like about that either, mainly how sort of big and heavy it looks. Over 350 pounds with a full tank. Don't want to pay that much for a DRZ. Spend a few more and buy this. What are these, like $12.99? $3,000 more. I mean, you put $3,000 into a DRZ, you're not going to get this out of it. I'm not going to go back into that, though. We've already talked about that in other videos. Yeah, but you didn't think I was going to go there with all that, did you? See, we went a little crazy there. Everyone else is talking about comparing it to this or that, and I'm over here talking about philosophies and economics, which I probably don't really know enough about to be talking about. Well, I don't think the world's going to suddenly change their quality of life to have people get paid correctly, though, around the world. So maybe Suzuki should have just built the thing in India or somewhere else. And I'm not saying because of those reasons I said that I would just go out of my way to go buy a DRZ. I feel you. In fact, I saw the price, and the first thing it made me think of is, I wonder if I took that same budget and bought a used one, how badass I could make it. Big bore stroker, you know, custom valves, sprung suspension, put those cool new plastics on it. Nobody should get too disappointed because the DRZ that came out isn't the DRZ we all wanted anyway. We wanted a ground up new bike, like a 450 with a 6-speed. I wouldn't even care if it was still steel frame. The Sherco's steel frame, it's a chrome ollie stain. That doesn't necessarily make them lighter. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down there. Give me your opinions there. If you want to go check me out over on Patreon, I often put longer versions of these videos over there. They're ad free, come out early. So that's something to check out, and you can join my Discord by getting in there too. Anyways, yeah, let me know what y'all think, and this is just boring now. I'm sitting in this terrible traffic. Y'all take care.